Hello and welcome to episode 27. Oh my god, now I hear it again. What the heck?
How about now? How about now? Do you hear it now?
I don't know. No, I don't hear it now.
Okay.
Hey,
all right.
I will just call that one. Hey, hello, welcome. This is episode 27 of the Pixel-related podcast. We are broadcasting to you on November 27th at 6:05 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, as always. And we say Pacific Standard Time because I am your host, Kyle.
Because you're the only one who matters.
I am the only one who matters.
Greedy.
And the other gentleman with me here tonight is Adam.
Just a greedy lover. That's what you are, Kyle. That's what you are.
I'm a greedy.
That's what we say about you here on the Pixel-related podcast.
Who's we? Is this you and Gus talking behind my back? We don't have a Gus today.
We don't have a guest today.
I don't have a reasoning for it. We put the call out that we were going to do a very impromptu podcast, and he didn't answer the call. And I can't blame him for that because it was kind of like, hey, I'm bored. Who wants to talk about stuff? And Adam responded yes, and Gus is probably sleeping or working or who knows what. But hey, pimping. Yeah, that's not easy from what I understand.
I've heard that. I've heard that before.
I believe I've heard that. So yeah,
the typical white guy response. Yeah, I've heard that pimping ain't easy.
So this is I say it's Sunday. It's the end of the Thanksgiving weekend. Hopefully everyone had a nice Thanksgiving. Hopefully no one had to work retail on Black Friday like I did because oh my god. Actually wouldn't have been that bad. We had a lot of system problems, and so when you have a lot of people and then you make every transaction take significantly longer than it's supposed to, and then everyone hates everyone, and it was awful. But
yeah, that's you said that you didn't have that many issues except for the system being a problem, and that sounds like a pretty big fucking problem. Like
yeah. So yeah, there was this thing where they were like, "Hey, we need to track our time that the systems were having issues, or the systems were down." And my manager literally just put 8 a.m., 8 p.m. because that's the time we were open. It was just actually to put later than that because we were still here later than that. And I was like, "Yeah, that's fair," because it was the entire day is when we were having problems. Yeah. So, anyways, that's enough about my stuff. Adam, did you have a good Thanksgiving?
Yeah, I did nothing. It was beautiful.
That's good. Well, did you play any good games over Thanksgiving? That's what I really want to know.
No, I don't play those.
You don't? Okay.
What are games?
So, yeah, well, I mean, obviously, this is the podcast where we talk about video games. So, would have been nice.
Really?
Would have been nice for you to play some video games. In the off chance that maybe you've been playing any type of games, let's say with a game with some type of monster, maybe a monster that could fit into your
God damn it, I got a fucking Magikarp. This son of a bitch. I'm doing this Wonder Trade thing in Pokemon, and sometimes you're getting really good ones, but a lot of times you're getting fucking Magikarps. And
I mean, what did you put into the Wonder Trade?
Look, I've had some where it's like, hey, I put in a Magikarp myself, and I got like a level 45 something or other, Sometimes you get really good shit into these Wonder Trades.
Yeah, it is. I mean, I remember, I don't know if X and Y were the first time they put the Wonder Trade in, but I definitely messed around with that with some Wonder Trade. And I probably mostly put garbage because I didn't get a ton of time into Pokemon X and Y. I honestly should put more time in. But I definitely got like, oh, hey, that's a starter. Like, I just got a Charmander for like some crappy random Pokemon I put in there. Like, that's pretty cool. But, but then also there are people who are receiving my crappy Pokemon that I put in there. So, karma and so forth.
I spent like a good solid half hour today trying to just catch a wild Gyarados. And within like a couple of these trades, I had one that was just straight up, hey, you got a level 34 Gyarados, which is way higher than the one that I caught, so proving all that shit pointless.
Yeah, I mean, all Pokemon life is pointless. It's really the real way to play Pokemon is the way that I've played the majority of the recent Pokemons.
Pokemon Go?
No, is actually using an emulator and using save states and scumming the hell out of it. It's a great way to play.
I am absolutely sure the fuck that it is.
I'm just like
actually, yeah.
Like I went back and I think I was talking to you while I was doing this. This was a couple months ago, but I went back and played Fire Red on I think it's the GBA version is when that came out, And like I was like with using like safe scumming and stuff like that, like I was like catching Articuno in like one ball. It's like that's right, I just totally did that because I just reloaded enough times until I just got it that one time. And it's not my fault. I forgot I only had one ball, and so I had to do it. You know, I gotta catch in that one ball.
It's not my fault that I'm the best.
So anyway, so enough of that going on. Adam, you've been playing. Which one are you playing? You're playing the Sun or
Moon?
The Moon? You're playing Moon.
Yeah, Moon.
Why did you go with Moon?
Because I like the thing that's on the front.
I've been hearing that. Okay.
Yeah, that's the best reason that I can get. It's a fine reason. It's a fine reason.
Judging a book by its cover is actually, you know, people give a lot of crap to that idea. But that's a pretty legitimate way, you know, if you know what is on the inside of the games and you're just trying to pick one between the other.
I think one Mr. Enzo Amore said it best. I will judge a book by its cover because that cover looks like crap, and I don't want to read that book.
Okay. All right. So then,
philosopher for our generation, Enzo Amore.
Second important question, though, is that who did you pick as a starter?
So I like all of them. I really like Poplio as a starter. The cool seal, the cool clown seal. Yeah. I don't really like the evolutions of it. And Rowlet I like as a starter, but kind of same deal. Like, I don't like the evolutions. Litten, the fire cat, evolves into a fire cat wrestler. So I went with that one.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, look, I'm a very simple man. I don't play these games for, like, deep strategy. I play them because I like the way they look.
Hey, no, you know,
guaranteed.
I'm fully with you. I was actually talking to that about my daughter because my daughter's still playing Pokemon Go, and she knows that my favorite. Well, she's like, your favorite Pokemon is Charmander, and I was like, it's not necessarily Charmander. My favorite Pokemon is actually Charizard, and I was like, which is funny because in the original Pokemon games, Charizard was by far the worst choice of Pokemon to pick because he's not that helpful in that game because there's not that many things that you have to fight that are good with fire.
Yeah, but also Bulbasaur is kind of crap too.
Well, I mean, the right choice.
Like Bulbasaur goes down like a bitch. You know?
The correct choice is Blastoise. Blastoise is the most helpful Pokemon in that game, and Blastoise is awesome, but Charizard is still cooler. And so,
big fire dragon. That's fine.
So I get you. I actually hadn't looked at the evolutions of the starter Pokemon. Like just going off of the three, I would think I don't know the cat's name. I would think he is probably the least cool of those three.
Litten.
I get you.
Kitten.
But hey, I see what they did.
Yeah, it's clever, right? It's a cat Pokemon. They've never done this before.
What is this like? Whatever, like 20 years later or something like that. They gotta do what they gotta do.
I mean, yeah. You gotta do something interesting. As it turns out, like this is probably the best Pokemon game.
Okay.
Like, yeah. So they make a lot of really smart changes. So there's a lot of like just baseline quality of life stuff that they've added in. So if you have encountered a Pokemon before, and you have to fight that Pokemon again, it will give you a notification like on your moves. It'll say, hey, this move is super effective against it. This move's effective. This move's not effective. This move doesn't do anything at all, so you don't like have to memorize the type stuff.
Okay.
Which is fucking great.
Well, not necessarily because the type stuff's easy to remember. It gets more complicated when you have like, hey, so this is a flying water Pokemon, and then you got to start doing like, okay, so this is good against water, but it's not good against like. So like, you don't have to do that math anymore if it just does it for you. It's after you've already done it. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, when it's like ghost and like dark type moves, that's where I have the issue with that. But then on top of it, it's like you have some that you kind of look at and you're like, oh, that thing looks like it's a tree, so my fire should be fine against that. But it's like, no, that's not a tree thing at all. And you kind of learn by, like before it was like, yeah, just kind of keep hitting your head against a wall with it every time you would encounter one of them. Now they streamlined all of that stuff really easily. So that's really cool. Makes actually playing the game a lot easier. The other stuff they've kind of changed up. They've changed the story. So before, like even in the newer ones, it was pretty much like, hey, go to this gym, go to this next gym, go to this next gym, get these badges, then go fight the kind of final four. This one, they have you. They have these 4 different islands. You're basically playing on this. What's basically a stand-in for Hawaii, and as you kind of go through those islands, you will meet champions, they're like champions basically, and they say, "Hey, I want you to go into this cave, and I want you to do these different tasks, and then fight this totem Pokemon, which is basically a giant version of whatever Pokemon that like is theming that dungeon." So it's it's actually like a way different sort of progression that you get as opposed to that like same thing you were doing over and over and over again in Pokemon. Like it feels like this change that probably should have happened a while ago. Like I remember playing Pokemon Black, and they're kind of changed to the story of it being like this, hey, you have to fight this Pokemon group that's like trying to free all the Pokemon, but they're kind of Poke terrorists. And like that was a cool story, but it never actually did anything for how you were playing it.
Right.
So them changing that is a pretty big deal. Like it's a pretty big tonal shift for that game, and it works out really well. Like it keeps you doing different things. And I'm on the second island right now, and like I just feel like every time I'm going to do one of these challenges, I'm getting something new to do.
So what do you mean? Like, what do you mean by chat? Like, what are they asking you to do?
So like, there's one where let me think. So the last one I did was I went to this area, and they're like, "Hey, there's these different like little water bubbles that are going around that are in this pool of water. Why don't you go and investigate those?" And you go investigate, and it's like, "Oh, it's this Pokemon. You got to fight him." And then they're like, "Okay, well, go investigate this other one." And you kind of do that, and then you have to fight this big totem Pokemon after you investigate all that other stuff. Or, you know, kind of a similar one is on the first island where they're like, "Hey, you're in this cave. There's these Pokemon that are just kind of running around. Try to catch them. Try to catch those Pokemon." Basically, and then like in the middle of it, you end up fighting Team Skull, which is their Team Rocket stand-in for this game.
It's got to be a different organization every single time. Like
every single time,
they can't like each area of the Pokemon world has their own gang, I guess.
Yeah, basically, these ones are the stupidest of them, but they're kind of gloriously stupid. Like they're what white people think black people act like in gangs. If you know what that means, like that kind of like stereotypical like yo, we're really hard, we're gonna beat you up, like that sort of thing. But they play it up so far, it is incredible. Like they are gloriously stupid. By far the dumbest group of motherfuckers that I've ever seen in these games.
Okay.
Period.
And what is their agenda from what you can see so far?
They'd like to steal Pokemon.
Okay, like, I mean that's fair.
Like they have no seemingly at this point. It does seem like there's something else going on. You do meet a character pretty early on who's like trying to smuggle this super powerful Pokemon, and she's trying to keep it hidden from forces unknown. So it seems like there's maybe some tie in there. And it seems like they're probably the upper echelon group that is controlling events, if you will. Sure. So I mean, yeah, it's stupid in a way that acknowledges how stupid it is. You know, like the professor in this is just, again, like everybody here is a glorious moron, and it's beautiful to watch because they kind of don't take it very seriously at all. They kind of just have a lot of fun with it, which I appreciate. Like I appreciate that from a kid's game. I don't need a dark, edgy story from it, you know. Which
is what some of the recent Pokemon games have tried to do. Like, hey, so we're gonna try to catch God this time.
Yes.
Like that was that Black and White that it was that? Like it was like you're basically trying to capture God.
Yeah.
Pokemon who created the entire. It's like what? Like no.
I think it was either that or X and Y. I never got that far with X and Y though.
I didn't.
Yeah, but so like story wise, really cool. Really good. They've just kind of made these really baseline changes to the game. Like before you go into a major fight, they just heal you. Like fucking finally, like that is something that has been needed for a really long time. Like they still don't do the thing which I think they've needed to do for a long time, which is as soon as you level you restore, but whatever, that's fine. They've also added in these Alolan forms of Pokemon, which, yeah, fuck it, you gotta do something to make these Pokemon different that you're capturing 20, 30 times before, you know. The best one, I think, is... I don't know if you've seen the Alolan form of Meowth.
No, I mean, for the Alolan forms, from my understanding, it's like a similar Pokemon, but they changed the types of them to something completely different, and then obviously...
Some of them.
Okay.
Yeah. Some of them like there's Vulpix and Sandshrew. They've changed those to Ice-type Pokemons.
Okay.
So that's a neat change to them. They've changed some other ones. Let me see what I got here. So they've changed some of them, like stylistic, that are just kind of stylistically. Geodude has these big, dumb, bushy eyebrows, which is just kind of funny to me. It kind of looks like Eugene Levy a bit, and that's really funny.
Okay, that's right.
But then beyond that, they also have like you said, the Meowth one I think is the best one. The goddamn thing, when it evolves to Persian, just looks like Heathcliff. Just like the dopiest Heathcliff-looking motherfucker that you've ever seen, and it's kind of glorious how stupid it is. The Executor evolution. I don't know if you've seen that one. Mm-mm. They basically just stretched that thing out to be like 15 feet tall. Except it's all the height is in its neck.
Okay. What do they call them? Like, do they have different names, or is they just like what does that mean?
They just call them the Pokemon. They like if you go to catch an Alolan Rattata, it's just Rattata. Like they don't differentiate it. There are so if you have like the Pokebank thing. Sure. The Pokebank app thing, you can transfer your Pokemon from other games over to this one, and so you will get like those old style ones still. Like you still have those ones. Every so often you'll like fight like somebody who has like, yeah, this is an original version of this Pokemon, and they still have those in there. But the only thing that really differentiates them is like their look. So like when you go into say your Pokedex and you look at their entry, like you can kind of hit left and right, and you will see like their different style.
Okay.
In there, so that's how they kind of keep them separate in there. So yeah, like for example, like Grimer. I've just got Grimer up right now. It's like his Alolan version is poison and dark, and then his regular one is just poison. So they kind of add like slight changes to them, but it's not on every Pokemon. It's not on like all of them. But it does give them a little bit of a stylistic change that is, yeah, just kind of nice. Like it's just kind of nice to not have to catch these exact same Pokemon for the 50th time. You get a little bit of a visual difference to them. And as somebody who, like I said, playing for visuals, that's nice. That's a nice little differentiator.
Right. What are these things I've been seeing of like these super crazy ultimate attack things? Is that something from X that I don't remember? Z moves?
I don't know if they were in XY. I mean, it would make sense because X, Y, and Z. But right. If they were, I don't know if they were because I did not play enough of that game. So basically, after you complete one of these different trials from these island leaders, you'll get a crystal, and it will be a different type of crystal. So, like the first one you get is a Normalum, I think is what it's called. And then there's like Fightium and Waterium. And basically, if you give that to your Pokemon to hold on to, you can use a Z attack, which will basically, it's basically just a supercharged version of their normal move. So I have like a Poliwag right now that has the Water Z move, the Water Z crystal attached, and so like rather than doing just Water Gun, it basically just creates this giant water vortex that just obliterates them.
Okay.
Again, like they're you can basically use them to what I understand like once per fight. So
that's what I was gonna say. They must have some type of limitation on that,
yeah.
and if it's that powerful.
Yes. And like if you put like a crystal like on my Litten or now Torracat, he basically like he has a normal crystal on him, but he has no normal moves. So he can't use that crystal. Basically, the crystal has to correspond to a move in order to make it work. So they do have some amount of limiters on it. But I mean, if you're just trying to plow through and just trying to like grind up your characters, like it works really well because they will kind of wipe the floor with a lot of Pokemon, even if they are like a counter type to it, so you can have one that's like here's this water type and you're using the Fire Z move, but I'm high enough level and that move is powerful enough that it's just going to destroy them no matter what. So they do limit it, which is nice, keeps a little bit of a challenge, but it also makes it really easy to get through some of the like low level, hey, I'm gonna fight you with one Pokemon because our eyes met, that sort of thing.
Sure.
So again, it's very easy. One thing I'll say I do dislike with this game is how long it takes to get into it, and it's a problem that they've had for a really long time. I don't need that intro anymore at this point. I have a baseline understanding of how these games work.
Yeah. Or they should have an option to skip past it or something like
yes.
that. Like
I would just like hey, you know what you're doing here? Go forward,
yeah.
You don't need to.
You don't want to walk through the tutorial about how to catch a Pokemon and how you have to lower its health and then throw a Pokemon.
I think I'm good.
Okay.
I think I'm good. Yeah. It does take a while, I think, to actually get into the game, and even after you kind of get into it, they still tend to tutorialize a bit much, which I understand. I understand why you're doing it, right? These games aren't aimed for me; these are aimed for kids. But I'm a grown-ass man, and I've played a bunch of these games, so give me an option,
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah, like this game, I think that this is. They made a lot of really smart changes to how the game works, and they've added in like a lot of things that are just going to keep you coming back. So they have like 4-way battles now, where it's like, hey, you can go into this arena and fight against 3 different trainers at once. They have this island challenge thing where you basically scan QR codes and you will get. Basically, you'll get the Pokedex entries for random Pokemon, and then so it's sort of like Monster Rancher. If you remember Monster Rancher back in the day, when you could put a CD into your PlayStation 1 and it would just take the CD track and generate a monster based off of that.
Right.
But if you collect 10 of those, it's like, hey, there's this legendary Pokemon on this island now. Go find it. So like I did that today, and I caught a Cyndaquil, which is I think from the 2nd generation. I think it's from Gold and Silver.
Yeah, I think that was the Gold and Silver starter.
So like yeah, like they just kind of add in these little things I think make it like it's the smartest one that they've made. Like they've taken I think a lot of the problems they've had to heart, and what it ends up doing is just making a really well-made one of those, which I think they've needed. I think they've needed this game for a while now.
Yeah,
and it sounds like it's doing.
I heard of
really
other just like quality of life things, like if you catch a Pokemon in the wild, you could just put it in your party instantly if you want to, rather than to a computer and go get it and do all that stuff. And
Yeah, that's like such a thing that I've gotten so used to now that I've played it that it's like it's not even a thing that I think about as an issue with the
yeah,
series
and then
anymore, you know?
they do something like you can just hit a button to go right to Pokeballs to catch Pokemon instead of
Yeah,
going
yeah,
through all the
you can hit the
menus.
Y button and it brings up your Pokeballs and you have them all there. So you don't have to go in and they give you a full description of them. They have a lot of different Pokeballs that like accommodate you to like here's a heal ball that like as soon as you catch this Pokemon, they will just be automatically healed of all of the ailments you put on them. They added in this like new friendship thing where you kind of like pet the Pokemon and you give them food, but then
Yeah, I've seen
you
some
can
really
also give them
creepy
like
things from that.
medicine. What's up?
I've seen some really creepy things from that. People
It's
are,
pretty creepy when you're rubbing Machoke's crotch. Not gonna
yeah,
lie.
yeah, yeah,
But they do like from there you can also be like, hey, I just want to heal my Pokemon of this status ailment. So like, hey, your Pokemon's poisoned. Use this medicine that is just in here. You don't have to go through and use antidotes and find all this stuff. Um, yeah, like they've made a lot of smart decisions, and like I said, like it's stuff at this point where I don't even think about them as issues with old games. Like if I went back to those ones and like had these same problems, be like, oh god, this is disgusting. No, no, why would you ever do this? No, don't do this.
yeah.
It's bad choice. But yeah, it's really good. I really like it. I've put in like 20 hours at this point, and I'm probably gonna finish it. You know, which is saying a lot. I haven't done that for a lot of these games in recent times. So yeah, it's really good.
Yeah, no, I haven't gotten it. I'm kind of out there hoping that they make like a Nintendo Switch version of it or something like that,
They will.
because that's how I would probably rather play a game like that.
Yeah.
Because I think
There's the rumor that
Oh, go ahead.
there's the rumor that it's going to be apparently called Pokemon Star, and it's just going to combine both Sun and Moon into a single package.
That works. That works.
Yeah, that's totally fine.
Call it Pokemon Eclipse. That's what you need to call it.
Yeah, Star and Eclipse and Gray and yeah. I don't,
Yeah, because I think that's the problem with X. Because I played I played like 10 hours of X or something like that, and I loved it. And they similarly made some good like some changes to it, like hey, all your Pokemon level up whether they fight or not, like things like that were nice. But I don't play handhelds enough to make that stick for me. So like if they get a version of that that's just on a console and I can just chill on my couch and do it for whatever reason, I think in my head I'll actually probably play it. Because I just don't like playing on handhelds anymore. It's not how I like to take my games in.
right. Yeah, and even like playing like 20 hours of this game has been it's been a thing where I've had to just be like, okay, I'm stopping now because I'm getting hand cramps and things like that. So
yeah, it's just not as comfortable anymore.
it also doesn't run great on the 3DS. Like it has some really bad frame rate drops.
What 3DS do you have?
So I have the original, but I've heard that it doesn't run too much better on the new 3DS.
On the new 3DS? Okay.
So it sounds like this thing is really showing its age, which I think is why a lot of people are like, yeah, this is Nintendo can say that, hey, the Switch is not a replacement, but it totally is a replacement. Because that hardware is definitely starting to show just how old it is.
They can only change so much when they came out with the new 3DS. What was that, like a year and a half ago, 2 years ago?
Yeah. Like it wasn't that long ago, but yeah, you can't change enough to make the thing run. Like you can get a couple more years out of it, sure, but beyond that, what do you do? And plus, I mean, you've already got a ton of people who have this original one, so what the hell are you gonna do?
Yeah, exactly. So, well, that's cool. I mean, I think that the Pokemon games, I've always said, I think the Pokemon games are fantastic RPGs. Like they're deep. They are long. I mean, some of the older ones were very grind heavy, but I think they've made changes to kind of fix that in latter years, or the latter games, I should say. And I'm super interested in this game. Like I said, I'm just kind of holding on hope that they'll come out with a Switch version, and I will probably pick up that at some point. Whenever that
I think they will. I think despite the technical issues, like it does look good, and from what I've heard, it sounds like they've kind of future-proofed this game, so that if they did want to say put it out on a different console, they could do that. So,
right,
seems like a pretty sure bet.
Cool,
which would be great. I would love that. I would love to actually be able to play one of these games on a console proper. You know.
Yeah, no, that I've been wanting that since like Pokemon Snap, like just to make a proper console. And even if it comes to the Switch, still isn't really a proper console Pokemon, but it'd be the closest thing that we can get to it.
But like at least you could play this version on your couch, presumably. You know, like.
Which, I mean, in theory, they had that like Game Boy adapter thing for like the Super Nintendo. I could have done that back in the day.
Yeah.
I don't know. I never had
that.
You
could play it on an emulator too. I mean,
yeah, I could.
I want to get real technical about it.
I could play it on an emulator. You're making me think. Okay. Yeah. So that's Pokemon. The other big release. Oh, there's probably been other ones, but the other big release is what I've been playing, and that is Watch Dogs 2. Adam, did you play? You played Watch Dogs, right?
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, I got bored. I got bored to shit by that game, but yeah, I played it.
Okay, so I feel like I'm one of the few people out there that actually enjoyed Watch Dogs. Obviously, did not live up to the massive hype, and there was definitely like it wasn't those type of games where I was like, man, I can't just wait to go play it. But I played through it and enjoyed it. I found the like hacking stuff that they introduced to kind of refreshing and interesting.
I felt like they never went hard enough with that stuff. Like it always felt like, yeah, I can hack this stuff, but at the end of the day, I still kind of got to deal with this not great combat and not great driving and this really fucking annoying character. You know, like it was a thing where I felt like there was nothing about it that stood out enough.
Okay.
It was just a game that I just got like and I've tried to go back to it multiple times. And even tried like messing around with that patch that they put out to make that game look more like the E3 trailer. And it's like, no, that wasn't my issue with this game. It's not the look of it. It's
that game is very dour. That the Aiden Pierce is just a boring, bland character.
Yeah.
So first of all, I'll say a lot of what you just said about Watch Dogs, I would probably describe Watch Dogs 2. It's still, the combat's still not very good, and the driving, we were talking about this before the show, but the driving in it is so arcadey feeling compared to what I just got done playing Mafia 3, which has giant boats, driving around the city, and they feel like giant boats. Like this feels like, in Watch Dogs feels like pretty much any car can turn a corner on a dime at 80 miles an hour, and it's no problem.
Are you saying that's a bad thing?
It just doesn't feel... I guess it's not necessarily a bad thing.
Because this is like this. I think is how I compare it. I think we had discussed before the difference between the Saints Row driving and the GTA 4 driving.
Yeah,
like Saints Row is very arcadey with its driving, and GTA 4 was just trying to be hyper realistic, and I never found that to be too enjoyable. Yeah. So, like, is it more in line with, like, what they were doing with that game, or...
So, the Watch Dogs 2, invoking Saints Row 2 is the perfect game to compare Watch Dogs 2 with. Because everything about it feels like kind of what they did in Saints Row 2, where Saints Row 2 was kind of a halfway point before they went crazy with the Saints Row the Third and Saints Row 4. Yeah. Where Saints Row 1, for the most part, was trying to take it very, very seriously. And then Saints Row 2 went a little crazy. Like, there's no missions in Watch Dogs 2 where you're spraying shit on the side of buildings or anything like that.
Right.
But it goes like kind of off the deep end with like the characters. It's all very bright. The characters are all joking and having fun. They're making like satire against real life events that happen, and like things like, it's a weird change from Watch Dogs 1, where Watch Dogs 1 was so like dark and kind of gritty, and like this Aiden Pierce, he's out for revenge. And here it's like, yeah, guys, we're freaking hacktivists.
Hacktivists.
And we're gonna fight the man, and yeah, we're gonna take down this big bad company. And they use a lot of really bad word like lingo and hacking words, and it's the main characters are terrible. Like I hate them. They are the worst, douchiest kind of millennial.
Wow. Okay.
Ever. Some people probably wouldn't have a problem with them. I kind of actively hate all of them. Like there is a guy in this game who has a mask on that is like his eyes are changing into different symbols and emojis and stuff. And it's like, no, that's so douchey.
Does it feel like they're reaching? Like they're trying to be like, hey, we're hip, we're cool with the kids and their lingo. Like, does that, because that's a bit of the vibe that I've maybe gotten from that game, and I didn't know like if they were just over trying with it or.
I mean, sometimes they are like, especially because it's in such a fictional universe. Like one of the early missions is there's this actor, and like the new trailer comes out, and the main character is like, "Oh, you can't watch that trailer without me. I'm going to come to the crib right now. We're going to watch that trailer." And then they're watching the trailer, and they're just going like, "Oh, damn, that's so awesome. That's so." And it's like, I don't. This is entertaining to me. Like I'm like you're watching this trailer, and it looks like some kind of fake, shitty trailer that would be in a Saints Row game. And it's like, but the characters are treated it like 100% sincere, like it's the coolest thing ever. And it's like, it's not. I don't know. It's just. It's so that's the thing. So like I kind of hate the main characters in them because they're all very douchey. Like they are like their whole thing is you are now a member of DedSec. The game opens with you're this guy who's being put through a trial to wipe your name out of the whole thing with the Watch Dogs universe is there's CTOS, which is this world, they're the city-wide computer system basically that controls everything from doors to stoplights to the sewer, like everything is controlled by this. And obviously that's the man, so that's bad. And it is bad. And they talk about how it is bad, and they're aggregating data, and then they're selling that to like insurance companies. So insurance sees that you order pizza 3 times in a week, and then they raise your prices on you because they're going to turn into a fat ass and die.
They make you sign into Uplay to play this game, right?
I mean,
there's an irony.
There's a certain bit of irony that comes into there, and like a lot of the main missions have some kind of anonymous-esque like video for it, where you got this guy with a voice modulator talking about this science, there's like a Scientology knockoff group in this game. I think they're called like New Frontier or something like that. And it's like, these people are lying to you, and all they're trying to do is take your money, but we're going to expose them. And it's like, it's so weird. But then on the other instances, they use that to really good effect. Like I just played a mission last night where I infiltrated their version of Google, which is called Noodle in this game. And so you're kind of walking on this campus, and I'm like, yep, I've seen pictures of the Google campus. This looks pretty like spot on. And yeah, a lot of people there are super douchey, but you would expect them to be super douchey, people that work at Google. No offense to anyone that works at Google. But probably. And they make jokes about, because the main character in this is black, and the other guy you're with is also black, and they're making jokes about how they're basically the only black people in this entire company. And like making jokes about that, and commenting about things like that, and that's kind of interesting. And then they go through this whole sequence where this other guy who does actually work at Noodle, one of your other DedSec people, but he's obviously like not, no one knows that he's actually this undercover hacker, and he's like being interviewed by HR, and you're like communicating with him like through the camera while you're watching him, and turning stuff on around the office to kind of make the guy freak out and leave the office. And then you communicate with him where he like writes stuff on a whiteboard and shows you, and then you like flick a light switch on and off to communicate like what number floor you're on. And it's like they do really cool stuff sometimes with it, but then at other times I'm just like rolling my eyes and going, "Oh, come on. Like, don't do that."
It seems like there's some stuff that they are really hitting close to home on, though, as well. Like, especially right now, let's say. Because I know that they've got some stuff in there about some voting stuff, and there's also like the big pharmacy guy, their Martin Shkreli stand-in character. Like it seems like they're maybe hitting really, really like oddly close to home. For a lot of shit that it just seems really odd that especially Ubisoft would put out something that is maybe not being the best, the most effective, but at least satirizing a lot of that stuff.
Yeah.
Like it seems like that's the sort of thing that could almost be like in this current political climate, it could maybe be a bit dangerous for a company to do that and then to have another side come out and have a pretty heavy backlash against it. You know what I mean?
Well, no, I mean, one of the earliest side missions is that it's you are conning this millionaire into buying a CD or a record exclusively for that guy. And it's like, I wonder where they got the idea for that storyline.
That's pretty good though. That's pretty good though.
And there's ones where you have to you mess up someone who's doing a live stream and you're like turning their lights off and you're changing the music, and there's stuff that's like, it's like sometimes it's a little too on the nose, sometimes it seems about right. I've heard about the voting stuff. I haven't gotten to those missions yet. And as far as like the actual gameplay go, it's very similar to the original Watch Dogs. One thing I will say is they have amped up the hacking part of it. So now, because from my memory of Watch Dogs, granted, Watch Dogs was 2.5 years ago or something like that. But basically, it was like you point at something, you hit a button, and it hacks into that thing. So you can move from camera to camera. You can make this thing blow up. You can do all kinds of things. Now you actually hold down the left bumper and point at something, and it gives you a couple different options. So you can actually do a couple different things depending on what you're looking at. And then how you upgrade your character as you get... how you upgrade your character is you have followers. So you have an app. DedSec has their own app, and as more people like DedSec, they follow and download the DedSec app, and then you have more processing power, and then you can have more upgrades. See, there's just stuff that just kind of is lame about the game.
I think that's a decent excuse though for like an XP system.
It's a decent excuse
in that game, as opposed to like before. It was just like you're better at hacking, even though you're already the best at hacking. You're better at the hacking now.
I mean that is still the thing. But yeah, and it's like, it's like when you complete like a main story mission, and they're like, "Hey, you earned 8,000 followers," and I'm like, I don't really want to have earned 8,000. Okay, sure. Now I can upgrade my character or whatever. So like there's things like with like a lot of them, there's like with killing enemies or disabling enemies, there's a lot of environmental stuff you can do. So now it can be something like, hey, there's an electrical box over here, and you could just make it blow up. Or you can make it spark a little bit and draw someone over there. Or you can just set up proximity things on it. So when someone gets close to it, that's not you, it'll just blow up. So like there's different things that you can do, kind of different ways that you can do things. They've also added a little RC car called the Jumper and a little hovercopter. So there's things that you can unlimitedly go send out into the field. Because a lot of the missions that I've played so far are basically, hey, this area is restricted. It has these security guards in there. If you go in there, they're going to shoot you. And so you can send your little RC car or your little helicopter to go kind of scan the area. The actual little RC car can actually go in and can actually hack stuff with a little extendable arm that it has and kind of do everything for you. But obviously if the guards see it and they're just going to shoot it and then just going to destroy it, and then you have to wait before you can call it again, I guess. So they've added kind of interesting ideas. But the stealth, like especially coming off of games like Hitman or Mafia, is the most recent comparison I have, because Mafia, I played a lot of Mafia stealth-like. All of the enemies in Watch Dogs have basically two modes. Either they don't know you're there or they shoot you on sight, which is fine in some instances, but it's like, hey, you're allowed in this area of Google. Oh, you walk through that door. Oh, now they're going to instantly start shooting at you. Or it's like, hey, you stuck onto a movie set. These are just, security guards that work at the movie set. They probably shouldn't open fire on you the second they see you sneaking onto a movie set. I would hope that's not how it's actually like in LA, or if you sneak onto a movie set, they don't just shoot you and kill you.
I don't know. Shit's crazy.
Maybe. I don't know. So there doesn't seem like there's a lot of nuance in there. And sometimes it's just easier to just like, hey, there's two guards, I'm just going to shoot them and whatever. It's not like, it doesn't seem like most stealth games, the AI is not very smart. Like I would not call the AI in Hitman or the AI in like Dishonored, I would not call it smart, but it's especially not smart in Watch Dogs.
Well, in Hitman, it's amusing. I would say that the AI in Hitman is just it's funny how stupid that AI can be.
Yeah. So I mean, so what I will say, like I said, so aside from the characters, like I said, kind of being unlikable to a certain point, the missions that I'm going on and the story that is going on around those are interesting because, like I said, they're kind of satirizing, either exactly on current events or recent events or kind of something similar to that, and that is all interesting. And I will say, if the main characters are kind of unlikable douchebags, the main bad guy is even worse. Like, he is just a complete asshole douchebag. He's just smug, and I want to take him down and I want to beat him. And props to a game for making a bad guy that I absolutely just hate. And because he's the head of Bloom, which is, I guess, the company that's working with CTOS and all this other things. And I think they buy the noodle, the Google stand-in, and they're the man basically. And he's the CEO of them or whatever. And he's like, oh yeah, I'm 5 steps ahead of you guys, and yeah, I'm gonna shut you guys down, and yeah, whatever. It's just, you gotta. It's such a weird game because I go through wild swings where it's like one moment I'm watching a cutscene and I'm just like, man, are you really using that weird hacker slang that just seems so terrible?
Do you think though that maybe they're trying to, like, maybe this is maybe giving the game a bit more credit. Do you think that they are trying to satirize even that stuff? Like do they have like people yelling out like hack the world and that sort of shit? Are they just trying to maybe have like this over exaggerated everything of this world, like not only are these other characters that, but your characters are as well?
I think they're kind of trying to do both. They're trying to like have their cake and also eat it too. Like, because like, for example, one of the like I said, they sit down and they watch that trailer, and the trailer is something about hacking or whatever that the guy's doing, and the trailer uses a bunch of like hacky sounding words. I wish I'd written some down because they're all terrible. And then these guys are then they want to go take down this movie company because they are making fun of the hacker, of real hackers. They don't know what it's really like. They don't know that's not how you hack into it, blah, blah, blah. But then at the same time,
again, like, irony.
Exactly. And it's like, that doesn't, like, I don't know. Like, I'm not sure if they're aware of how bad it is. And it's probably just me. There's probably people who wouldn't have the same negative reaction to that. I don't like millennials, I guess is the proper way to say it. Not really, not like,
I'm hurt.
Hey,
I'm hurt. I'm a millennial.
The stereotypical millennial. Hey, depending on how you define millennial, I think I fall into like the very early range of millennials, which is kind of scary.
I think it's like 84, 83, maybe at the latest.
Yeah, it's like
I'm definitely in the millennial group. Yeah.
No, you are. I think it depends. Like I said, depends on how you categorize it. I think I think myself as a Generation Y, but it depends on how you calculate it and how you define it. But then, so like I'll go through times where I'm like not liking it and I'm not enjoying it, and then you flip the script and you're hacking into some multimillionaire's house. And you're leading him on, and you're using a soundboard that sounds like this rapper to talk to him on the phone to con him into giving you millions of dollars. Or actually, you don't. It goes to a charity. And then once he realizes that you're onto him, and that he actually just gave like $20 million to St. Jude's Hospital or something like that, then you just blast "Ode to Joy" over his sound speakers at full volume. And it's pretty hilarious. And I'm like,
that sounds pretty good.
Yeah. And so it's like, so I go through moments where I'm like, I don't like what's going on. And I go through moments when I'm like, that's pretty fucking awesome what just happened right there. So it's very polarizing. It's also got a weird habit of like, so it's a giant open world game. There's a lot of side missions. There's a lot of main missions. There's some online stuff that's going on with it. It's supposed to be some like seamless multiplayer, but I guess it just got turned on like Wednesday or something. Because it wasn't on there before that. So So I saw a little bit when I was playing that last night. Like 2 guys rolled up. I don't know why it was 2. I thought it was only 1-on-1. And then I was trying to hack into them, and then they shot me because it's 2 of them, and they found me relatively quickly. And I was like, okay, that's kind of cool. There's a lot of side missions in there. A lot of the like collectibles and stuff like that seem to involve trying to get up onto a roof, except there's no parkour or climbing elements per se. So it's all like walk around it until you find a ladder or find some type of scissor lift thing that you can control and move up there. And it's like, that kind of sucks for a lot of things, especially when it's like, hey, there's an upgrade point at the top of that building. I don't really want to go through all the hassle of trying to find a scissor lift to try to get up there, or so it's just weird. It's just weird all around.
Yeah, I remember in the first game they had with the first game it was basically just Dark Souls invasions. Like, as I remember, it was like somebody hacks into you and then they can try to find you, and you have to kill them first. Like, that kind of sounds like that's all that it is here again.
So there is that. There are also like straight up like co-op missions that you can open up and go on just like anything else. I haven't messed with that because it's not really what I'm trying to do in this game. Like I'm doing my open world, and I'm doing my open world. Keep my peanut butter out of your jelly, type of thing. Like I'm just trying to do my thing over here. Which I think was the problem with what they were doing with the first Watch Dogs. It's like when you give it this massive open world and you're trying to like, all right, I'm going to go do this next mission. Oh, there's a guy hacking me, and I gotta stop, and I gotta deal with that. Like sometimes you just like, no, I'm just trying to proceed what I'm doing. I'm trying to finish this mission. I'm trying to do this story beat or whatever. So can
you turn that stuff off here?
I'm sure you can. I'm sure there's an option in settings to turn it off, or hell, you could just go off. You can just go offline if you really wanted to. I'm sure.
Yeah, because that's how I remember. I seem to remember that there was the option to turn it off, and I remember pretty quickly in the original Watch Dogs being like, "No, you're getting turned the fuck off," because it was becoming pretty unbearable at points.
Yeah, no, it was. It's like the first couple times it happens, it's cool. It's like, oh, that's really cool. Like I wasn't, I'm not doing anything particular at the moment, or like a guy's hacking me, I got to try to track him down or whatever. There was some like race thing I remember from the first Watch Dogs where someone would like try to like do stoplights, or try to trip you up while you're trying to get from point to point. I think that was something to do with the app that they had out for it or something. And I remember those being kind of cool and kind of interesting, like a couple of times. But yeah, again, mostly when you're playing this game, you're just trying to play it and get done with it. And but yeah, so I think Watch Dogs is a fine game. I don't think it does anything particularly well, and it's very like the pacing on it, as far as whether I'm really liking it or I am rolling my eyes, it goes up and down. Like, and I don't know if it's a little bit more of which way yet. I know kind of the first initial entry into it was a lot of, all right, yeah, let's do this. There's, like I said, there's the guy who has like the mask with emojis on it. There's a kind of stereotypical guy who is antisocial and talks very monotone and doesn't get jokes because he's sheltered, and it's, I don't know, it's fine. It's fine, I suppose. Yeah. But if this is, to bring it back to comparing it to Saints Row 2, if this is kind of their Saints Row 2, because I think Saints Row 2 was kind of mediocre as well. But if this leads to like they find their footing and they find their true calling in the next Watch Dogs, that could be awesome. That could be amazing. If they hit that satire and that, that kind of tone correctly, this could be an amazing game. And maybe they'll still find it later on in the game. But from what I played from so far, it seems like a little bit off, or a little bit too much, or I'm not entirely sure.
That's interesting. Because that's actually one of those games that I've wanted to kind of just check out, because having watched some of the stuff with that game, like it just, I like the tone they're going for with that game. I know you might not necessarily that might not be your thing, but
yeah, I'm
from what I've seen that game, yeah, like I actually think that it's a thing where there's this problem that I think a lot of games have fallen into, of not having fun with themselves. And that's why I really fucking loved Saints Row 3 and 4, is they just kind of had fun with themselves. So, I mean, yeah, like, and if they're just kind of doing that, like taking the piss out of hacking culture, basically, that's what it sounds like to me, and I could be totally wrong with that. But if they were to do something like that, I think that could be really interesting. You know, it could be an interesting venue to go. But I do still want to see, like, especially the promise of that first game was so much. I remember them being like, this is the most pre-ordered game of all time, the new IP of all time, you know, and it just sounds like like pretty much everybody universally agreed. Like, it was not, like, it was almost a universal agreement that it was just not there, you know.
Oh no, it was nowhere up. I mean, the original Watch Dogs was nowhere up to what people expected out of it or wanted out of it, or even what they showed of it. I mean, like the missions, like I remember like playing that mission that they showed in that first E3 trailer, and you can see them side by side, and it's like, man, they dumbed this down so much and they changed those things. But at a base level, the gameplay that they were expected to do was there. I just don't think it was deep enough, and it really hasn't changed to be super deep in this game either. So they're kind of, I think they're banking more on their style and tone, and I don't just think it's quite hitting for me. I'll give you an example of it just kind of turns me off. So like when you go into their main hacker base, which is in the basement of a kind of very stereotypical like game store, not like a GameStop, but like a in our town it's called Borderlands, where it's, you know, there is some kind of like Cones of Dunshire-esque game set up on one of the tables, and there's people that are talking about playing some Magic the Gathering off, and like, you know, that's what. And then you go into the basement and you hit a thing, and right when the door slides open, there's just a big spray painted middle finger in your face, and I'm like, you guys kind of suck. Like, just you guys kind of just suck. Like, you guys are kind of douchebags. Like, and to some people that might be funny, or it might just be dumb or whatever. But it's like, I kind of just see like, I'm like, you guys kind of just suck. So not to mention the whole fact of like they're all about fighting the man and freeing the people, but yet they still make this very much a game where you can just get an assault rifle and just shoot down, you know, security guards, basically, not even cops or bad guys per se, but just, you know, hired security guards that, you know, have to work at, you know, this random place. Like,
well, I mean, the fact that you can kind of call, like, I don't know if you saw that thing, I think it was on IGN, that they did, where it's like, this guy's playing a banjo, and they just call a gang in on this guy who's playing a banjo, and they fucking kill him. And it's like, okay, all right, that's what we can do here, okay.
Yep.
And then they just kind of started a banjo gang warfare thing, which that's probably why I'm so interested, because the idea of a banjo gang warfare is just really funny to me. I don't know, that game seems really stupid at points with the stuff that like almost this disconnect between what you can do and what the game is like saying, like, hey, be against the man, but also I'm gonna hack the shit out of you.
Oh, I hadn't even talked about like one of the things that I love about the game is there is a whole selfie camera thing built into the game where you obviously your main interface is a phone, naturally, for a game like this, and you can go and select your camera. By default, the camera's on selfie mode. You can hit a button for Marcus to do a pose, you know, making like or smile, or making fingers at it, you know, doing like, you know, different poses and stuff like that. And there's an entire thing where it's there's landmarks around San Francisco that you can go stand in front of and take your selfie, and then it's some kind of like Instagram thing where your other dead set guys will comment on it, you know, make jokes and stuff like that. But you could also just take selfies with random people while they're doing stuff, and the people will actually comment or change what they're doing and all kinds of stuff. And I'm like, that's a really smart, cool thing to just, hey, like, we're gonna put it, you know, because like, you know, GTA and stuff like that, they all have cameras in those games, but to actually like make it a part of the gameplay where have people notice that you're taking a selfie and try to like jump in your picture or pose themselves or whatever it is, like, I love it. It's awesome. It's hilarious. There's some achievement or trophy about getting photobombed or something like that. I don't know exactly what, because I've definitely had, you know, people just, you know, I'm trying to take a picture of myself in front of this giant pig or whatever, and someone just like kind of like pokes their head out and like waves, and it's like there's some really cool, smart ideas in that game. But also like the main character has Beats by Dre's headphones on the whole time, and then specifically they have an animation where when you go up to talk to someone, he takes his headphones out of his ear and then starts talking to him and then puts them back in, and it's like, that's kind of a douchey thing to have, just walk around with headphones all the time, you know? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know, like that, like you say that that's douchey, but that sounds to me like character, like shitty character, but character.
Sure,
You
exactly.
know?
I'm not saying it's necessarily bad for the game to do that if they want to, show their people that way. But this is kind of supposed to be the main character. This is supposed to be the person you're rooting for. And the only reason I'm rooting for DedSec is because the guy they're trying to fight is even more of an asshole. So
Yeah.
Props to them for that. Like I said.
Yeah.
Get a good asshole.
Well, I mean, if that's your baseline, if your baseline is asshole, then you got to up the asshole factor.
Yeah,
it's got to keep making a bigger and bigger asshole.
Baseline just needs to be make your bad guy more unlikable than the good guy. So whatever that ends up being, you're fine still, I guess, right?
Yeah, it's fine.
Okay. Yeah. So that's Watch Dogs 2. Like I said, I think that I definitely think it is a better game than the first Watch Dogs, because if nothing else, it actually has style and it has tone and it has something going on besides kind of just blah drab. It's full of hackers who are like all about spray painting billboards and stuff like that. There's color and all kinds of graffiti art, and that is at least entertaining and vibrant, if nothing else. But hey, your mileage is going to vary whether you actually can handle the characters and what's going on in there.
Right. All right.
So yeah, I think that pretty much sums up for what we wanted to talk about. There's not a ton going on, and we spent a decent amount of time talking about the two games that we've been playing. But that kind of what happens when you get us together. We tend to just talk and talk and talk. Yeah. I mean, there's some other stuff. Like we were kind of talking about the No Man's Sky stuff that happened out, but neither of us have No Man's Sky anymore because of the garbage that was that game when it came out at release. So maybe if we get a chance to check it out, we'll talk about that a little bit more.
I watched the video they put out for that game, or for that update, and I don't know that update is going to fix what my problems with that game were. I admire them for trying, but I also don't think they did themselves any service by being completely quiet for months.
For the last
I think they hurt themselves a lot. Yeah, basically, like since release, like their first tweet out about that game was because their account got hacked.
The No Man's Sky was a mistake tweet. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
That was good. That was good times.
And look. I'm just saying. Look. I've heard this before, but we'll just say that both that and the game itself were the result of hacks. So, there's that. We're gonna have a real fun. We started planning our Game of the Year stuff this week, and we're gonna have a real fun shit show with that game. I think that's gonna be beautiful.
Oh yeah, it's a top contender for many of the negative categories. In the some positives. I really only think the one, but
there's the one, but I'm gonna say I don't necessarily agree with that one.
But yeah, I mean, one thing I will say is they're calling this update the Foundation update, and it has a dual meaning where they're saying yes, it has the foundations of what you can do with building, base building and stuff like that. But they're also saying this is what they intend to not just have base building, but this is the intention of what they are building onto the game.
Yeah,
it's kind of being put into motion here. I mean, this update took 2 months to come out because the last update before this was September 24th, and now this update hit today. So hopefully we get a little bit more movement sooner than that. Because I definitely said even when the game came out that I am fully ready to go back to this game like a year after it comes out or 6 months after it comes out if they make meaningful, interesting changes to that game. Because I think there's enough good in that game where there could be a really great game behind there. I don't think it's there yet, but maybe it will get there at some point.
Yeah, I wonder how much they're going to have to change in order to make that game that I want at least out of it. This Foundation update is nice to see them continuing to work on it. However, there's already a lot of damage. I almost wonder if any of these updates are going to be enough to fix that game's problem of the perception of everything they did was a lie.
Yeah.
Man, this game is such a weird fucking thing, and you know, look, we'll say our piece on it. I think at that point, but I think there is maybe an amount of damage that they did to themselves that I don't know that they can get back from.
No, and also, I mean, you got to look at this. I mean, obviously, I'm sure they made a ton of money off of No Man's Sky because
they made a ridiculous amount of money with it.
So I mean, at this point, they're playing. Like, we got to update this game so that the next thing that we have to get back into the good graces, just so that the next thing that we come out with, it sells at all. Like, because basically, they're talking about all these updates and all this work that they're going to be putting in theory over the next year or something like that is all going to be free. That they're not going to charge for those updates, and they're not selling. I mean, look, it ain't selling any more copies of that game after the reception it had. Like, no one's running out after the Foundation update and going like, oh, I'm going to pick that game back up again, or like, hey, now it's going to get good reviews on Steam or something like that, because it's not gonna. But they got to work towards something, or they just got to scratch the studio. So I mean, let's hope that they don't have to scratch the studio, because there's enough good ideas in that game to hopefully make it into something good. But
I really want a new Joe Danger, and I just don't think that's ever gonna happen.
That's probably never gonna happen. No.
Yeah. Yeah.
But anyways, let's work on getting out of here. We said a little bit about No Man's Sky. Like I said, when we get to Game of the Year stuff, that will definitely come up in a couple categories. Because But anyways, thank you for listening. As always, you can find us on our websites, pixelrelated.net. If you want to shoot us any type of feedback, that's feedback@pixelrelated.net. I am Kyle. That is Adam, and we will see you next time.